Because again, I've never seen anybody miss a 1-foot putt before, but I've missed plenty of 15-footers. It gets real difficult the further you get. So if I can get you to throw it closer to the basket more often, that's going to mean you're going to make more birdie putts, you're going to hit more fairways, and you're going to be more competitive, whether it's in your tournament, your league, or just for fun. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another vlog / instruction video. I'm Drew Gibson, owner of Finish Line Discs, 2-time Disc Golf Pro Tour winner, and I'm going to show you guys some tips and some updated stuff from other videos I've made on how to throw better backhand. And again, this isn't a distance only thing. What I try to do, just like I did with Bonanza, is I'm trying to teach you guys how to have better form while adding distance, not only learning distance, because what happens is the more birdie putts you have, the better you're going to play. So me helping you create consistency is way more valuable than me helping you throw it 25 feet further and still not being able to control it. So what we're doing today, we're going to get right into helping you guys understand the form, what you might be able to implement into your game that could help you, and what would be most beneficial for you to do in the field, in the net at your house, or even just having your buddies film you every once in a while. And things to keep in mind, refer back to this video and check it out. Okay, so number one thing is I want you guys staying on the balls of your feet in an athletic position as much as possible in this throw. So when I say balls of your feet, I don't mean on your tippy toes, and there are going to be some flat-footed, like your first step here is going to be pretty heel first, and then after that, I want you up on the balls of your feet here and getting in good position. So what that's going to do is that's going to keep you nimble, that's going to keep you in an athletic position just like you're playing any other sport. And it's going to make sure that throughout your throw you're being consistent, because sometimes it's easy to get lazy and be flat-footed. Well, if you're always on the balls of your feet, that means that footwork is going to stay very consistent and be very concise. So what's happening is being on the balls of your feet is going to let you create more power, because it's putting your other parts of your body in good position, and it's also going to create major consistency, because what we're trying to do here is no whether you have crazy form or great form, if you consistently do it, and say you pull it right a lot, but you aim left, you're going to end up hitting the fairway, right? There's a lot of players on tour and a lot of great world champion major winners that maybe don't have the most ideal form, but they figured out how to make that form work for them. So all I'm trying to do is teach you guys some easy steps to implement into your throw to be able to have a nice, consistent, smooth shot. So balls of your feet, right? That's very important. In any sport, you want to be on the balls of your feet in an athletic stance. So here's one major thing you need to keep in mind is while you're on the balls of your feet, you do not want your feet facing away from each other, right? That does not do anything for athleticism. There's no sport in the world where they set you up like this and tell you, hey, good luck. So you want to have your feet parallel to each other. So in the throw, this would look like this, parallel to each other. And a little bit flared is okay, but you don't want to abuse that. So, and then what you want to do is you always, every single time, no matter what, you want your feet staggered. So I like to always say, if this is your back foot and this is your front foot, you want them like this. You want your back toe to your front heel at worst. You do not ever want to be like this, and you never want to be like this. Because what does this do? This allows your hips to actuate and work, right? Because you go from here, firing the hips. So that's a very, very important part of all of this process, is using those hips. Well, the first thing you can do is have your feet open and on a skateboard or a surfboard or whatever, and parallel with each other, and you're never gonna be able to use your hips. They can slide really well, right? I can stand like this and my hips will slide good, but they don't twist that great, right? Now if I put my feet like this, now I have this full range of motion in my hips, right? And that's not compromising anything else because I'm not sliding. So what happens when you start sliding your hips is your plane starts to change. Your shoulder pitch, your head pitch, everything starts to go up or down depending on the way you're sliding your hips. So if I'm sliding my hips this way, my shoulders are going up. If I'm sliding my hips somehow this way, I'm going down. To where if you're twisting, you can remain this level the whole entire time. So very important, being on the balls of your feet, remaining parallel. That's going to create good hip position, and it's going to get you a consistent spot with your feet. So if you're on the balls and you're making sure to do this, there's only so much that can go wrong in that process. What I see a lot of amateur players do is they get here and they like kind of swing their leg. So now, not only is your front foot too far forward, it's open and it's not level with your stance here. So even if you were to have this front foot this open, it would be okay if you did this. And again, these are what I call ideal positions or tolerances, right? I'm not trying to tell you you're never going to throw it good if you don't do this. And that's the main thing, where everyone is different, everyone has a different style of throw, and everyone feels comfortable doing something else. Maybe you had hip surgery 5 years ago, so you can't get in some of these positions. That's fine, but the other positions we talk about later on in this video are more crucial than to be in a good tolerance and a good spot in order to help you throw as best as you can. All right, so now we have our footwork and we know the positions we want them to be in, correct? So we want those feet lined up with each other and not facing outward with a little bit of stagger. And what I want you guys to focus on is having a controlled run up or walk up or whatever you'd like to call this. In order for me to get from the back of the tee pad to the front, I have to do some type of run up, walk up, whatever you'd like to call it. I want your run up to be slow and concise. I don't want you to race to the front of the tee pad because that doesn't do anything. All that's going to do is put you out of balance and in positions that you shouldn't be in. To where I throw plenty far for most part with plenty accuracy, and this is literally the pace of my run up to throw a 500-foot shot. So I'm not rushing to the front. My follow through and my control is all right here on the tee pad. I'm remaining balanced, I'm remaining even, I'm remaining level. So I'm not having any issue with going like this and trying too hard, because what happens is you start leaning forward, and as I mentioned before, the more I lean forward, the more my shoulders and my head are going to start leaning that way, which is going to affect the flight of the disc. So we want, almost done with the footwork, you guys, I promise, stick with me. Your feet lined up, balls of your feet, and we want a nice slow run up. And I'm not going to tell you there's not a certain tempo, 1, 2, 3. It's just whatever's comfortable for you. Everyone is different. Some people like to be really quick on their feet, and some people are a little more slow. But if you are a slower mover, it's easier to get back onto your heels. So if you're going to be moving slow, because what typically happens is you go slow, and it's very easy to not get on the balls of your feet here. So if you are a slow mover or you like a really slow run up, I would still like you to get up on the balls of those feet a little bit and get in those good positions. So one of the questions I get the most is simply, what is the timing of the throw? So that doesn't mean the exact timing of every single thing, because that's very person to person. It's very different. It's going to change. And as your form gets better, or you find new discs, or you want to speed it up a little bit to go further, or you're slowing it down to throw a 100-foot up shot, your timing is going to change. One thing I like to keep consistent no matter what is when my front foot hits the ground, my reach back is at full capacity, right? So what that would look like is this front foot is coming down and I'm here. So I'm always going to be touching at the same time, where I'm at my furthest reach back just as that toe hits the ground. So what that's going to do is that gives me a good firing point, right? Because now I have all my contacts on the ground. I'm not doing this where I'm like starting to pull forward before I even get my foot on the ground. And then also I'm not doing it too early in the sense of or too late, I'm sorry, where I'm going like foot on the ground and then I'm trying to do this. So you want these two things. You want your reach back to reach its maximum, most furthest point back, while that front toe is just hitting the ground, is like the perfect timing. And again, this is going to change for this shot versus that shot, or a 100-foot up shot versus a 500-foot drive. But for the most part, even if I'm throwing a tiny little shot, I'm going to be trying to go here and just gently launch the disc as that front foot is hitting the ground, is when I'm going to start kind of twisting my body, which will in turn propel the disc forward. And which in turn, again, a lot of this is just about consistency. I'm not trying to teach you guys to throw it. If you're a 400-foot thrower now, I don't want you to go on the field and think this is going to get you to 500. What I want this to do is get your 400 to 425 but with less percentage used. So if you're using 90% of your body or your power to go 400 now, I want you to go use 75% and get to 425. Because what happens, the softer you throw the disc, the more you can control it, right? If I was going to hit the camera from right here every time, I'd probably hit it 9 times out of 10. Now I scoot back 50 feet, I might hit it 0 times out of 10. So the closer you can be and less percentage you can use, the better your shots are going to be. Because again, I've never seen anybody miss a 1-foot putt before, but I've missed plenty of 15-footers. It gets real difficult the further you get. So if I can get you to throw it closer to the basket more often, that's going to mean you're going to make more birdie putts, you're going to hit more fairways, and you're going to be more competitive, whether it's in your tournament, your league, or just for fun. So this, back here, touch. Back here, touch. Back here, touch. That's going to be the most consistent way that you can do it, and the easiest thought process, because everything else can get too difficult. If you're trying to think about this, and your foot and that, like once you get that footwork down, you have a nice, smooth, slow run up. You're on the balls of your feet are landing in good position, crossed up. We need to work on you getting that little timing thought of bam, here. So that's what I feel like is a great timing thought process for that reach back. And I get that question a lot of times, what's your timing, what's your timing? It's all going to be different, but one thing I do make sure to keep consistent is that toe hitting the ground and being at the furthest most point of my reach back. All right, so now we have our lower body in place, right? What's the next thing? That reach back I talked about, right? So now we're getting that reach back, toe down, biggest reach back. So here's the main thing that I think starts killing players is when their reach back, okay, we've got all this timing down, right? We got this figured out, we've got it figured out, and now we're here, and then we're doing this, right? So what's gonna happen? You're gonna have to come here, and either you're gonna launch it into the ground, or your body's gonna correct, and you're gonna throw it in the air. And same thing here, right? If I reach too far back, now I gotta get the disc on plane, and then pull across. So what I like to teach people, or like to instruct people that they should do, and or try, is, and again, I'm acting as if all these other positions, you guys have already worked on it in the field, in the net, with your buddies, whatever it might be, and we're feeling really confident about the lower half of our body being in the correct positions now. So now, we're in all these good positions here, right? This is the power pocket. If I'm gonna start a lawnmower, pull it from here. If I'm gonna pull a rope, I'm gonna pull it from here. If there's a door on fire on this side of me, I'm not gonna hit it like this, right? I'm not gonna swing my arm. That's not very powerful. I'm gonna drive into that door to break it down to get away from the fire. So no matter what it is, whether you're pulling from this side or you're trying to knock something down on this side, the most powerful your body's going to work is here, right? You're using your legs, using your core, using your back muscles, and using your arms. So no matter what, pulling this way is going to be the most controlled and the strongest. So when we're trying to throw this disc here, we are trying to do it with our biggest muscles, right? I don't want you flinging the disc with your arm, right? Your arm is only so strong. If I go like this and just fling it, that doesn't seem very consistent, right? Now, if you're using your whole body and you're in an athletic position and you're here and you're using your hips and you're firing your core and using your back, that's your strongest, biggest muscles. That's going to create the most consistent result versus standing there and just flinging with your arm, because what's going to happen throughout 18 holes or 36 holes or however many holes you're playing, your arm's going to get tired and your arm's not sustained to try to throw 500 feet only by itself. This is a lever. This isn't the only tool we have. We have a huge body with tons of big, huge muscles in it, and we need to use those. So what happens is people start getting into these good positions and they start just like throwing with their arm. What I want you guys to do is lead with that elbow. So elbow here, and as soon as it passes your rib cage, then you can start to kind of throw with your arm. That's where that second lever of the elbow comes in, right? Because really, you have the big lever, you have this lever, then you have your wrist. So all of these two things create spin and power, but they also can create inconsistencies. So if you're super curling your wrist, you have all this room here for your wrist to uncurl, right? So you end up having an inconsistency. And that's the last thing that happens before you throw the disc. So you don't want to curl too much, you don't want to do too much of this, and you don't want too much elbow bend, because what happens is now that whole elbow has to uncoil and be perfect timing. So again, we're trying to create consistency. So once you get in this good position here and you lead with that elbow here, right? Now the disc, my wrist is pretty neutral, right? And the disc, I only have to use my elbow this much, and my wrist this much, right? So there's not much that you have to do once you get in these good positions. And so that elbow leading allows you to use your hips and fire these hips, right? Because look, here's my elbow, right? I'm not moving my arm at all, right? Here's my arm position. So if I go here and I use my hips, that hips, just moving that hips like that, here's my arm in the same position, gets that elbow out past that rib cage, which allows me to then just pop it instead of having to pull with my arm. What usually happens is people start leaning back or they start leaning forward, because what happens is you go here, you start leaning to use your arm, or they start going like this and they start leaning to use their arm. If you use your hips and your core and your chest to twist and turn, you are going to be way more efficient and throw way better shots. So now from the footwork to our hips, to our reach back, to how we're using our chest and that elbow being past the rib cage when you're starting to pull through, we have our head position, right? This is something I always feel like is very crucial and people miss when it comes to the form. Is just in life, if you're walking through the mall, right, and you start looking to the right, you're gonna kind of start veering right, veering left. I mean, anything like that, your head and your spine dictates a lot of what your body does. And so if I'm going like this, right, and I lean this head, whether we know it or not, that couple degrees of what I call wing change is a big difference, right? So if I go like this and I start leaning, that's where you start having a problem of releasing straight into the ground or releasing up in the air. And what happens is your brain thinks, abort, abort, don't throw it into the ground. So then your body at the last second is going to kick your hips out and you're going to just launch it up in the air. So overall, I'm going to need you guys to keep your head and your spine and your shoulder position as neutral as possible, right? You want to turn it and you want to turn it. You want to turn it and you want to turn it. And I know it sounds dumb, but it's the truth. The more neutral you can keep your head position and your shoulder position, the more neutral your swing plane is going to be. So what you want to create consistency is a level swing plane that can be easily repeated. So with this, I always tell people about a fist away here. So there's going to be a point, obviously, running up at you guys, right, where I'm running up at you and I'm facing. Here, my shoulder meets my chin. I keep it about a fist away from chest to chin. And then here, as I start pulling through, we get that elbow past. My shoulder has now exited that area and we throw. What that's going to do is that's not going to allow you to do this, because you start putting your chin on your shoulder. And one, what that's going to do to your reach back is look. Now look it. If I go, now I get more reach back, right, without rounding. And then the problem is too, is if I go here and I turn my head too much backwards, I start rounding, right? So this is where you want the disc. Turning your head, it pulls your shoulders left or backwards, which is going to make you round. So now, in order for me to not hit my own rib cage, I have to round to get to the target. So what your head position can do is two turn can create you to round, and not turned enough cannot create you to get in that really nice power pocket position. And with that power pocket, keep in mind, I want you pulling between about your belly button and your bottom of your sternum. So you don't want to be too high, and you don't want to try to be too low, obviously, because you're not going to create any power here. Just like I was demonstrating with the door, pulling something. You're never going to pull to your neck, and you're never going to pull to your knees. So with that power pocket position, we want to be here and pulling straight through this area. And that's a feel. Again, it's going to probably be a little bit higher up for most people, but you do want to make sure to keep that feel in mind of belly button to bottom of your chest, just to keep that consistent. My head position, it dictates a lot of my throw. That's why you see someone, a great thrower like Kale LaVisca, he keeps his chest out, his head very neutral, and he does a lot of what I'm talking about. He's on the balls of his feet, very smooth. And he knows he's not going to throw it 550 feet. So what he does is he throws 450 right in the middle of the fairway every single time. That is what is going to create a great player. That's what is going to create great scores. Bradley Williams, I don't think he throws at 550 feet. He might not even throw at 500 feet. But what does he do? He puts it in the fairway, has chances to win, and gets birdies because he's able to place his disc out there where he wants it. It's not all about distance and power. It's about how you can control it. Last, but certainly not least, is going to be your posture, right? Everyone's posture is different. Some people are very upright, like Kale, and some people are pretty slumped down and have a throw where they're kind of Jake Hebenheimer's kind of a little more like curled over. Nicholas Antela is very like kind of curled over his disc, and the posture isn't as good. So when it comes to posture, I'm not saying have a great posture like you're gonna dance ballet. I'm just saying whatever your natural posture is, make sure to take that into your throw. You don't want to be shoulders over your chest, slumping. That's not a very good position to create power. But also you could be too upright, where you're no longer bending at your hips and using your knees, where you also create no power. So you have to find that happy medium with your posture. Your posture can help you a lot, but can also be a big detriment to your game. The one time you can use posture to your advantage would be if I want to throw a hyzer, right? And here's my normal posture, my throw. If I want to throw hyzer, I can kind of bend at my waist or at my hips and create this bent over posture to help get the disc up and over a tree. The same way, if I want to throw a roller, I could bend the other way and kind of get this backward spine tilt here, where my left shoulder is closer to my hips than my right shoulder, and I can create this nice roller angle by kind of creating that pull effect. So posture can help you throw shots your body naturally can't throw, but it can also hurt you if you're slumping too much or you're trying to be too lean back. Because what's going to happen is if you get too lean back, you're going to end up on those heels, and you're going to end up having that last step be super long and not be very concise. So a lot of it is being in those athletic positions, is being in the positions that your body works the best. And again, I'm not a scientist, and technically I'm not a form coach. I'm a player who has arguably very good form, and all I'm trying to do is help you guys learn better how to score better. I'm not trying to act as if this is going to be a 360 clinic or anything like that. So please take this, go work on it in the field. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you watch Badanza's series. Hopefully you go back and watch my other form videos as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.